welcome to another analysis behind the news. Another week and another opportunity for Congress to kick the can, also known as the budget, down the proverbial road. What do you think they'll do? Will they recognize that they have a responsibility to exercise fiscal sanity? Or will they continue to do what every other session of Congress has done, which, of course, is to ignore the constitutional limitations of the federal government and continue to fund its many unconstitutional agencies and programs? On Friday of this week, the current continuing resolution for temporary spending runs out. And depending on who you listen to, the federal government will either come to a screeching halt or, as the Treasury has indicated, bill paying could continue into the fall of this year, which is the end of the fiscal year. And of course, that will force Republicans in Congress to get serious about fiscal responsibility, won't it? Well, we're not going to hold our breath. In fact, the radio show Crosstalk reported during last week's news roundup that Republicans were already working with Democrats to extend the current Obama-era level of spending, including, wait for it, funding Planned Parenthood, of course. Our guess is that the current spending levels will be extended with no serious talk about fiscal responsibility or cutting anything in way of expense. Yet, it seems that an Obamacare vote could be brought back with the possibility of a Freedom Caucus compromise. At least there are some rumblings of that happening, but nothing set into concrete yet that we're aware of. Also, President Trump will present his plan for cutting taxes. Okay, but shouldn't we also cut spending? After all, we spend more than we bring in, so let's get our spending under control. Unfortunately, many conservatives are thinking that a balanced budget amendment is the solution. And to many, this makes sense. After all, conservatives like to play by the rules, don't they? So an amendment would supply a new rule to follow. Except, if the Congress was following the rules of the Constitution, then we wouldn't be in such a fiscal mess. So if Congress isn't following the majority of the rules, why would they follow a new one? Think of it this way. Does your state have its spending under control? Do you know that states get an average of about 30-some-odd% of their revenue from the federal government? Oh, and that nearly all states already have a requirement for a balanced budget? So again, does your state have its spending under control? Not if it's getting an average of about a third of its revenue from the federal government. And many of these states are Republican-controlled. One in particular is Ohio, which the legislature has been under Republican control since at least 2011. Not to mention having a Republican governor, John Kasich, for that same time frame. And Governor Kasich is touted as someone opposed to wasteful government spending. In fact, an opinion piece at Bloomberg is reporting that the governor will be out promoting his book this week and about the importance of a balanced budget amendment. But instead of going through the traditional means of having Congress propose the amendment, he is advocating that the states meet in a convention and take on the responsibility themselves. And aren't these the same states that get an average of a third of their revenue from the federal government? In fact, Ohio is reported to have nearly 36% of its revenue come from the federal government. Are they practicing what they preach? And when you look at these proposed amendments for balancing the budget, most don't even consider off-budget items like Medicare, Social Security, the Federal Reserve, and much more. And according to this Bloomberg opinion article, conservative icons like the late Judge Robert Bork and Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia warn that a balanced budget amendment would unleash a flurry of legal activity that would turn judges into budget czars. And in 2015, Scalia said, "This is not a good century to write a constitution." Adding any amendments to the Constitution demonstrates that there is a problem with the Constitution, and a convention could open the Constitution for a rewrite, as happened in 1787. We'd have to agree with Scalia that this is not a good century to write a Constitution. Rather, the Constitution needs to be obeyed. Accountability needs to be restored within Congress. And one way to do so is to repeal the 17th Amendment that took away the state's responsibility of reining in federal spending. For more on this, we ask that you view our 8-minute video called "What Will Balance the Budget?", which is linked to in the video description. We also have an inexpensive pamphlet that you can use to help get across the point that the budget can be balanced, but not with an amendment, especially with the number of loopholes the proposed amendments contain. These are great for your community outreach efforts. And if you're interested in learning how to engage your community in order to make the difference, join the John Birch Society by visiting jbs.org. And be sure to like and share this video with family and friends. Sign up for our e-newsletters and subscribe to our social media channels. Until next time, we'll see you then.